You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. My guest, Dr. Emmanuel Akwete. He is Executive Director, Institute for Democratic Governance, IDEC. Doc, thank you so very much. It's been a long time. We haven't had you here. Right. Great to have you. Also here in the studio with us is Victor Kojoga Adaudu. He is Managing Partner, Lord and Lords, Legal Practice and member, NDC Legal and Communications Team. Thanks for joining us. This will be your second time this year on the show. Thank you very much. Dennis Miracles Abuaji is aide to Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, 2024 presidential candidate of the New Patriotic Party. Good morning and thanks for coming. Right. This will be your second time too, right?
Like third.
All right. Oh, right. All right. Okay. Great. Vera Abuna Ado is Programs Officer, CDD Ghana, Elections, Rule of Law and Anti-Corruption, and Coordinator, Parliamentary and Youth Desk. Thank you for joining us, Vera.
Thank you, Samson.
Great. All right, Bright Simmons, who is Honorary Vice President, Imani Africa, also joins us via Zoom, just like Vera. So let's begin. And the way Bright would often do it is that we'll engage him for about 10-15 minutes when you make a presentation that helps us, put a better picture on the issue for which we're calling him to join the discussion about the Adu-Boahen and co matters. So let's begin here whilst we get Bright, to get ready to join us. Okay, thank you. Now, let me start with Dr. Akwete. That's quite some revelation, right? Did you know that the state was spending so much money on political parties, including in opposition parties?
I think I haven't known the exact amount, but I think there is a way in which governments support opposition parties they think they could form alliances with. And indeed, governing parties in the past, the so-called, we call them minority parties, those who are not able to enter parliament and so on, government tries to form some alliance with them and supports them financially. How this is accounted for is actually something that hasn't been discussed. But nonetheless, we haven't had the minority parties who invariably in the last, not before this election, in the previous elections, take the money, but they don't get to parliament. I think the last time we had the CPP and other groups, PNC and so on in parliament, would have been, the cutoff point would have been before 2016. Okay, since then is the two parties dominating. But each time you hear that the minority parties outside parliament tend to are financed by governing parties. It is meant to sometimes divide their front, split them over some of the policy and ideological issues that they will take on their policies. And that has been the practice. So smaller parties, the governing party takes care of them, but it doesn't take care of them to the extent that they will change numbers in parliament. And since I think the 2012 elections has been difficult, it's been very difficult for them to, gain seats in parliament. So we have these two parties dominating us. And even in opposition, I mean, the late lady candidate, Ikuya Donko, it was always said that, she was active and helping to...
But that's not the kind of sponsorship we are talking about. You're talking about where the powerful parties, particularly the NDC MPP, as we know,
government,
they would sponsor even out of government for purposes of IPAC decisions also, because they go to IPAC and they need support. So they try to help some of the parties as if they are the ones actually putting them up so that they can make numbers in the place. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about where the former National Signals Bureau boss, director, Kwabena Adu-Boahen, makes this revelation of what is supposed to be state secrets, if you like. That the 49 million Ghana cedis in question, about which he, his wife, and one other, as well as one of his companies, the holding company, have been put on trial. He's accounting for the 49 million cedis and tells us who got what when, and so on and so forth.
I think getting money from intelligence agencies and so on, it also tells us that there is a whole lot of practices that we do not know about, are not in the public domain, except when things come out. But the way I looked at his submission was that this is a man, and both himself and his wife are in hot waters. and I think I read his part, meaning he's been compelled to come out to say these things. But the way they've handled the monies and so on, for intelligence operations, we hardly know, the extent to which the monies are given out, either to influence, to induce, or simply to get them, appease them, or offer support. So I read it knowing that. I said, well, to what extent, how can we know the truth of what exactly the money was for? He has said it. How has it been corroborated?
Let's quickly bring everybody who is watching us and listening to us, up to date on what we're talking about. So he wrote a memo. Kwabena Adu-Boahen wrote a memo to the current, National Signals Bureau, boss.
Yes.
And this, among other things, this is what he says. He says the Attorney General of the Republic has been very vocal in a number of press briefings where he brands my wife and I as criminals and alludes to transactions between a certain national BNC account and private BNC accounts purportedly owned by us. I cannot tell where the AG gets his theories from, but as your good office would have learned by now, the matter relates to transactions between your special services account and SPV accounts, BNC Communications Bureau, duly authorized and created for the national security exigencies of the time, and for which my wife, duly vetted, and the UMB were instrumental in facilitating. It is bizarre that the Attorney General attempts to link unrelated transfers, withdrawals, and refunds for special operations with assets we do not own and a few we own, which mostly predate the 2020 transactions he raised. A cursory look on the part of any would reveal these facts. As this ridiculous drama unfolds, some 49 million Ghana cedis of special operations funds have now become the subject of court action. So note that one. He says 49 million for which the Attorney General is prosecuting him is of special operations funds, which have now become the subject of court action, where my wife and I, as well as other affiliates, are being accused with charges including stealing and causing financial loss to the state. I have tried to withhold classified information from my interrogators, but I deem it prudent to inform your good office that in light of the current developments, we run the risk of public disclosure of the following national security and intelligence operations expenditure items. So he says he's being compelled to, as it were, declassify what is classified. So he gives the list. Special operations 2020. Amount involved 9.5 54 million. ISC Holdings, they are the ones that received it. Remember, ISC Holdings are supposed to be the company that is supposed to be buying us, or we are buying the national security installation from. Operation Concord, 6.9 million. Who took the money? Various personnel. Operation Calm Life, 3.78 million. Who took the money? Various personnel. Parliament enactment of the National Signals Bureau Act 2020, 960,000 Ghana cedis. Who got it? Defense and Interior Committee members. Parliament enactment of the NSB LI, legislative instrument, 309,000. Who got the money? Members of the Subsidiary Legislative Committee of Parliament, Legislation Committee of Parliament. Election operations, operation allowance, 7.28 million. Various personnel. Election, operations again, allowance, 6.76 million. Various personnel. And support for opposition party, 8.9 million, which he says is classified. He will not tell who received the money. Election logistics, vehicles, 5.13 million. Special aid to president-elects. So who is the special aid? Is it Joyce Bauer? Is it Phyllis Kwache Ofosu? Who is it? And then human security operations, it calls generators, 520,000 Ghana cedis. National Security Coordinator. Right. So this is the picture.
He finds himself in a situation where various allegations have been made. And I think his brothers, he said he's compelled to put it forward. But I know that national security operators do all sorts of things and it never comes out. How do we verify? In fact, I didn't spend too much time on it because I said you wouldn't find the corroborative evidence. And therefore, but it's an important figures he's putting out that maybe he hopes might exonerate or maybe disabuse people's minds that that's the source of income they've used, which is the reason why they are in jail. I didn't have any other information other than his, and it's also national security. I think it usually is something that they know only. It's not in the public space. So I couldn't also find information that says somebody in the office says, no, this never happened, the other side of the story, unless maybe they go to court. And being national security, sometimes it will not even be open to the public. So okay. I really felt that he's put his figures there that needs to be interrogated to see whether it's the source of whatever they've acquired, or as he claims, money that was given to people on the other side. All right,
we'll go to Brad quickly for the presentation, but Dennis, this doesn't come to you as a surprise, right?
Good morning.
Okay, hold on. Let's go to Bright now. Hello, Bright Simmons. Hello, Bright.
Yes, Samson, can you hear me?
Great. I can hear you now very clearly.
Samson,
thank you very much for making time to join us.
Bright usually gets this information. How he does it, I don't know.
Okay. Right. So, Bright, what's your review of the revelations that have been made so far vis-a-vis the prosecution that has commenced?
Yes, thank you very much, Samson. The matter is one that is of great interest to us at Imani, some of the other research-focused governance think tanks, certainly IDEG and others, from different respects. And when your producer reached out, even though I had a flight, I thought this was so important to us that I would join. What I'm going to do is present to you a framework for analysis that, in my view, will help narrow down some of the discussions. So we start off with, a very important element of the situation, which is the due process rights of Mr. Adu-Boahen or Mr. Adu-Boahene. And those due process rights are not something we will quibble with. We will not seek to trivialize his due process rights. So his rights to counsel, to a fair hearing, presumption of innocence, those are all important. And in the conversations, there's been a lot of effort to emphasize his due process rights. That notwithstanding, we also have to remember that Mr. Adu-Boahene is a very powerful and apparently wealthy man. Powerful in the sense that he ran one of the 3 core intelligence agencies, and I will explain what that means in a second, what we mean by core intelligence agencies. He has extensive connections across the entire security infrastructure of the country. He has extensive connections across the government because the nature and the role of national security means that you interface with a wide range of activities. And as Dr. Akwete has said, there is considerable discretion in some of the ways in which they are allowed to interface with different parts of the national life. We also now know that he's a very wealthy person, and I'll come to that at the very end of my presentation. One of the problems of any justice system anywhere in the world is that the rich and powerful, if you're not extremely careful, can easily evade the normal accountability through the justice system that the rest of us are subject to. And so we are also equally concerned as a society that justice is seen to be done when rich and powerful people are concerned because of the fear of justice capture. So we have to balance his due process rights with the inherent interest and right of the public to be assured, to build public confidence in the process, and to be assured that notwithstanding his power and his wealth, the system can deal with him. Because otherwise, he has the best of lawyers, he has the best of witnesses. There's a whole range of facilities available to him that's not available to ordinary people. On the same score, we have in this country a national priority of anti-corruption that have been endorsed by the courts, who through various rulings and their jurisprudence, such as coining terms such as create, loot, and share, and the like, have made it very clear to us that in our country, corruption and perceived corruption are very critical for our national life. So this current administration came into office riding on the back of anti-corruption in the form of a policy called oral, which is very, very critical to, in their view, to the sustenance of our democracy. So these are important, interests, national interests that we are balancing. The due process rights of an individual, the communal and the public rights to be, to see that corruption is being tackled and that justice is being done. And no matter how rich and powerful you are, that you cannot evade justice. So these are the important dynamics within which we operate in. And it's not sensible, in my view, nor rational, to elevate one above the other. These interests must be balanced. The due process rights of the individual with our communal interest in anti-corruption and in justice being seen to be done, no matter who is involved, no matter how powerful they are. The second critical point that I think we ought to be emphasized is that the national security system is not the Wild West. The national security system in Ghana is very structured. As you know, being a very prominent lawyer in this country yourself, there are multiple laws that govern how each of the agencies operate and how they work together. So the Security and Intelligence Services Act 2020 and other acts make it very clear that the governing body of all the intelligence services in the country is the National Security Council. Every single intelligence agency in this country is not a law unto themselves. They report to the National Security Council, which is the apex. And within that National Security Council, there's a secretariat which ensures the day-to-day function of the intelligence services and their supervision. Critical word, supervision. It's also very important to recognize that in addition to that, the 3 core agencies, which is the Research Department, the National Signals Bureau, which used to be the Bureau of National Communications, that the person of interest, Mr. Adu-Boahene, used to oversee, and the National Intelligence Bureau, which used to be the BNI, or the Bureau of National Intelligence. These 3 core agencies all report to the Minister of National Security. And in the Act, the Minister has very clear rules. And in the Enabling Act of the National Signals Bureau in particular, the Minister has rules as well. The National Security Coordinator, who has been mentioned in this saga, operates on a leash entirely held by the Minister. He cannot do anything that is not authorized to be done by the Minister. And all operational funds are controlled by the Minister. This is explicit in the law. So there isn't any kind of provision of financial discretion given to the National Security Coordinator. Those are very important points to make. I've tried in a very crude manner to summarize the national security architecture as I've described it. So you have at the apex of it the National Security Council and Secretariat. Underneath it, the three core agencies, one of which Mr. Adu-Boahene ran, and which therefore marks him out to be a very important and prominent individual. And then the core agencies interact with what I will call the extended security ecosystem, which include the investigative agencies, your YOCO, FICs, and the like, and also the security services, which include the army, the police, to some extent, the immigration service, customs, national fire service, etc. So in that whole architecture, and if you add the human security dimension, then we're also talking about the emergency services, and therefore the likes of NADMO and the rest are all important. We've also decentralized the process to the point where we have regional and district councils, which brings in the municipal authorities. Why have I gone to the trouble of describing all of this? I want to try and explain that unless you operated within the ambit of law and you were subject to the clear structures of those laws, there will be chaos. Given the extent of the national security system we have, you have National Fire Service people claiming that because they're also part of national security somehow, they can do whatever they want. They can buy fire tenders without procurement rules, etc., which will not be allowed. Even the national security services must obey the general laws that are in place, such as public financial management, such as national procurement laws, except to the extent that, to some degree, the way in which information about them is put in public is classified on a need-to-know basis. And I will explain in a minute how that does not necessarily mean that we are blind to the activities. The NSB, which is the agency that was run by the person of interest in this conversation, it's itself, as I've explained, subject to the exact same regime as the rest of the intelligence services. And its functions and its supervising body be the National Security Council, which is chaired by the president, by the way. And this is such a critical matter, and I'll come to that in a minute. But the president chairs it. There are a number of ministers who must be members of the National Security Council, including Minister of Defense, Foreign Affairs, Interior, etc. There's a National Security Committee, which is a smaller subset of that council. And on top of that, there are other functional committees which interface with the investigative services, etc. Everyone, including the Chief of Defense Intelligence and the rest, must come to that committee and justify their activities. And that governance is critical. Disclosure is allowed in matters such as this for investigation purposes as well. So, for instance, a person of interest has said that he did not want to disclose information to the Attorney General. In his own enabling act, that provision is made that if the Minister of National Security, who at this point in time is the Honorable Muntaka, Minister of Interior, because he's been given additional responsibilities, he has the right to authorize someone who, because of the fact that he's a former member of the National Security Services and therefore is still subject to an oath of secrecy, he has the right to authorize him to release information. So all of those matters have to be very clearly put out. It's not as if national security is some jungle, you can do whatever you want and things like that. Every single activity of national security is regulated by law, and that law reins in what they can do. Secondly, or even more crucially, national security is not a closed book. The Auditor General audits the accounts and is supposed to audit the accounts. A word there, we have seen so many other abuses, including one that I'll cite very shortly, where the Auditor General was unable to pinpoint until there were further investigations, and typically until after the government changed. So even though the Auditor General has access to these accounts, typically because of the way in which the specialized nature of the service interacts with the specialized knowledge of our auditors, there are instances where they overlook. And that's the case across the country. That's why we have oral. Otherwise, if Auditor General will spot and address all the matters that oral is supposed to deal with. But there are forensic matters that for some reason we've never been able to build capacity within our auditing agencies to be able to handle. But the fact that the Auditor General is supposed to have access to all the accounts, including classified accounts, you know what in America is called black budgets, that fact is very, very crucial because it tells you that you cannot simply spend money how you want. And I'll come to that in a minute. The Public Financial Management Act applies and has various ways in which money is disbursed and authorized through spending officers in the ministry. Certain matters cannot be handled by the chief spending officer alone. It must be done in conjunction with the auditing system, the internal audit agency staff that are placed there, supposedly under clearance. Parliament has oversight. And if you want to evade parliamentary accountability, you need a warrant of some kind signed by the Speaker or alternatively by the National Security Council. And if there's a dispute, it must go to the Supreme Court. So the assumption that civilian oversight of the Security Service is not there is also not correct. Parliament has full oversight to get this information. And part of that goes through the Public Accounts Committee. Right. The fact that the Public Accounts Committee has the capability to or the right to receive reports about all operations of national security itself tells us that the law did not assume a vacuum. These are critical points. Now, the NSB's own law also makes the same accommodation for the financial provisions and talks about the fact that all their books and records and the like of it will be subject to the Auditor General. The Council, through the Minister, at the end of the financial year, will submit these matters to the Auditor General for audit, and the report will be shared with Parliament, etc., etc., etc. So these are all very critical matters. On top of that, in this country, we've had an exact same incident. Monies meant for the purchase of spyware apparently diverted. People have gone through the court and been successfully prosecuted and jailed in this very country. Exact same situation. The money was designated for spending in the area of spyware. Somehow the spyware was not purchased. Somehow, because the spyware was not purchased, it was deemed that the money had been stolen. These people were prosecuted in courts, not necessarily under the same charges, I think, under financial laws, but I think, as I recall it, some of the charges were identical, and these people were found guilty, meaning that the courts have already given us enough jurisprudence, enough case law to understand that you cannot, as a national security, divert funds to do other things in the way that you seek.
Coincidentally, the cost involved in that earlier one was like the same one.
$4 million, and this is $7 million.
$8 million was supposed to be the actual figure. $4 million was the money that had gone out.
True. But in this case, I'm talking of the funds that are missing.
That's right.
Higher in this case than in that one.
That's right.
So the situation is that this is a problem that's a solved problem all over the world. It's a solved problem. There's nothing complicated about how you handle black budgets. There are black ops operations that are covered in nature, some of which border on criminality if they were not authorized. If they were not authorized, however, then they become rogue operations. So essentially, the way it works is if the CIA wants to render you, let's give you a very classic example in the Ghana context. Let's say one of the reasons why we've not had a terrorist incident in this country for so long is because the national security has been bribing terrorist agencies or organizations in Burkina Faso. Let's say that was the case. I'm giving a scenario, purely hypothetical scenario. And the way that they've been procuring this peace was bribing terrorist bosses in Mali, Niger, and elsewhere. Of course, that money will not be described in those terms in reports that are not classified. So you and I will not know. But three things will happen. One of it is that the National Security Council will definitely be briefed. You cannot go and bribe terrorist officers unless, or terrorist actors, unless you are informing the president of the country in his capacity as chair of the National Security Council, and you have an authorization to do so. Else you could be complicit yourself in terrorism. Now, in those scenarios, the fact that it's a black op doesn't mean it's an unauthorized black op. And the fact that you cannot disclose in public doesn't mean that certain important people in this country, like the chairperson and the ranking member of the Defense and Interior Committee, cannot be brought before the security intelligence agencies and given access to information, even if they don't have the right of copy and things like that. So you must distinguish between black ops and unauthorized rogue ops. If the suggestion that is being made by the person of interest is that we have unauthorized ops, but his superiors were aware of it within the fraternity of the National Security Service alone, but not the National Security Council, then he's simply making things harder for other national security officers who may still be serving. That may be true, but that has nothing to do with the prosecution. The prosecution, in fact, must go on to unravel any unauthorized rogue operations and bring that under the ambit of the law. Because if you're not allowed to go and do activities that you don't bring the president about. On top of that, remember that we've had a handing over. Handing over notes were delivered. In the period, if there were matters that only the president of the republic knew, which in my view, there's no way you can do any operation in this country, given the structure of our laws, that the president of the country will not know. The outgoing president will know and will have briefed the incoming president. There will be records to enable accountability. Do you think that this prosecution will be ongoing if the current president is not completely confident that these matters were not authorized? You think his attorney general has not briefed him? He's not sought the advice of his own National Security Council actors, and they've not discussed it with the former president, if need be, because if there was something that overlapped with briefings that they received in handing over notes. So we have to remember that unauthorized ops are not legal, they cannot be conducted in our republic, and they can certainly not be funded. If they are authorized ops, then notwithstanding the fact that they are covert ops or they are black ops using the idiom in the United States, they will still be recorded, and they will still be matters that are subject to the jurisdiction of the National Security Council. So this is the most critical element of it. On top of it, in our national security strategy, the sweet spot, the high impact, high probability context, because we have some threats and risks in the country that are low impact and low probability. So the most critical threats and risks we manage, corruption is one of them. So the national security itself knows that corruption is a critical problem, and therefore they will set up their own systems appropriately to manage this. And therefore, if there was a sense that corruption was undermining national security itself, let me give you an example. Let's assume that just for the moment of this conversation, that every accusation that has been made against Mr. Adu-Boahene is correct. What that means is that this is one of the biggest breaches of national security in our history. It means that the people who run the three core agencies of national security can literally be blackmailed, because what that will mean is, if, for instance, the assumption of stealing is correct and somebody else knew it because they had done, let's say, an investigative journalist, they had looked at this private company, done some of their background checks, got some sources, and then identified that this is potentially unauthorized or this is being used for stealing. I'm just saying this hypothetically. They can blackmail the national security chief concerned, and that will undermine our national intelligence.
Quickly get to this for us. Your next slide. In your slide, you say that close examination of the claims do not hold water. Get to the jugular for us.
I'm ending on that point. So, number one, we had very specific budgets for very specific operations, because our national budgeting framework does not allow you to just spend money anyhow. Money authorized by Parliament for specific actions, even if it's a classified budget, those monies must be traced to their intended outcomes. We've decided that we want to buy spyware in this country because it's necessary to spy on people. If that is necessary to spy on people, because some of them are terrorists, some of them are criminals, etc., and we've decided to buy it and we've allocated $7 million, you cannot allocate $1.something million to the company, refuse to pay the rest, and so therefore the country is denied the benefit of the transaction, and for over 4 years claim to have diverted the money to other purposes without any trail. That would not be allowed in our national financial laws. So that is not something we can even discuss. It's not a reasonable explanation to give. The second point is that some of the projects that he's mentioned are very well-known projects. Operation Calm Life, for instance, is a very well-known operation that was run in this country by the military. Operation Conquered First was run by the police service. There's a lot of information about this. Alpha, which is the CCTV complex, those white poles that you see all around the country, is about $230 million project where we borrow money from the Chinese Exim Bank, we borrow money from Barclays, we put it all together. We bought a lot of these CCTV cameras and wired them all together. If you claim that somehow these projects involve the diversion of money, because all of these projects have their own budgets, and then somehow you are aware of the diversions of these monies, that means that you are opening a new front. You are suggesting that if you are not giving special treatment, you will blow the cover of these operations generally. It cannot be that monies that were supposed to be given for IIC was diverted to these operations, because that's not how it is done. And if that was the case, as in an authorized reassignment of the budget, the person who will do it will be the Minister of Finance, acting through the President, quietly in the National Security Councils, but will have the records. So the Attorney General of the Republic, who has access to all of this and is at the ear of the President, will not be blind to these matters. And so what I think is happening is very clear. We have someone who has been admitted, has a company that has dealings in multiple industries. One of these companies is called Advantage Solutions. It builds mast and other infrastructure for telecom companies. The owner of it was a national, or the lead shareholder, ultimately a beneficiary, was the chief of the very intelligence agencies that is responsible for communications in this country and can make pronouncements about security breaches and spectrum breaches of other telecom companies. Can we run a country where people who run national intelligence services, let me give you a very simple analogy that will bring this home to you. Literally, is the IGP running his own private security companies in this country, or the head of the armed forces, the CDS, running his own private security companies in this country. Can we allow this in any serious country? That you have a national security boss, he's sitting there, he's a serving officer, he has companies that have investments all over the country, has shareholding claims. I mean, he has access to classified information. Can he compete fairly with his competitors in the market? This is not something we can allow. So I'm not sure we want to go down this road.
Okay.
But very clearly, this is a situation that constitutes a massive breach of our national security system, and we must not take it lightly at all.
Right. So we have done about 20 minutes already, but I wanted to know from you, you say that the claims do not hold water. How are you able to isolate the 49 million for which he's charged for stealing from the disbursements that he speaks about now?
It's a very simple calculation. The monies were authorized in a budget for spending on a particular national security objective. If you wish to change the composition of its funding, its internal allocations, if somehow you decide that we don't want to buy spyware at all, even though we paid $1.something million to the Israeli company, they can keep the money. These are weighty financial matters which you cannot determine at your level in the National Security Service alone. Even a National Security Coordinator who is conveniently dead, in the person of Mr. Joshua Chereme, cannot authorize for the reallocation of funds in the manner that is suggested. This is a matter that will have to go to the National Security Council. So my argument is that to the extent that the Attorney General, working closely with the President of the Republic, who is the chair of the National Security Council now, who is in touch with the former president, who was chair of the previous National Security Council, is completely confident that these diversions were not correct, and nobody has provided any evidence that these diversions were correct. We cannot give any credence that these were authorized. That's number one.
Okay.
Number two, we know that those services were not delivered. Because if the service had been delivered, we will not be where we will not be having this discussion in the first place. There'll be a different service inquiry to think about, okay, we owe the Israelis and the rest of it, and how do we pay? It's a different conversation. So ultimately, you do not divert money in a way that disrupts a critical national security function, which has not been authorized as no longer critical. That's number two. Number three, he mentions specific activities within the intelligence and security services that those of us that pay attention to it when it's relevant for the policy management of this country, in the area of, for instance, fiscal governance, which we do a lot of work in at Imani, we know that these projects like Calm Life, Conquered First, Alpha, have been scrutinized in different fashion. I remember Imani writing to the government in 2016 thereabouts, questioning BNC allocations in the budget, because in those days they were talking about spectrum work and they were not providing evidence. And we got briefings quietly because we were probing a lot. Because these descriptions were high level in the budget and there was no further description.
Okay.
These projects around, for instance, Alpha, we know where the money came from. We know the companies that are spending the money. So we know it came from Barclays and Exim Bank. We know the companies that are spending the money. Huawei, everywhere Beijing was kicked out. So they didn't get to spend the money. Yeah,
they actually went to the court in the arbitration.
It's the exact same project. Yeah. It's the exact same project. If you are saying that somehow money were abused in that project and used for unauthorized black ops or something of that nature, what has that got to do with you divesting money for ISC? That's the point I'm making. They are irrelevant distortions. The only thing they do is open up conversations for the misuse of other funds in the national security.
He says that the Attorney General tags the BNC account as his private account, for which monies from the National Signals Bureau went into and then were then used to do these activities. Okay. Now he's pointing out to us that this account was duly authorized and it was for the special services by the national security. He says that Attorney General's attempt to link unrelated transfers, withdrawals, and refunds for special operations with assets we do not own and a few we own, which mostly predate 2020 transactions he raised. What do you make of that?
Let me explain to people how we got to BNC. In 2007, the decision to introduce sophisticated electronic interceptions in this country became very critical. And the government set up this Bureau of National Communications. In the beginning, worked very closely with the NCA. And it was not entirely clear, because a lot of the capabilities existed in the communications ministry. and then the national security obviously needed to have oversight. So they had a joint interface. Then a lot of people criticize the continued use of these covert mechanisms without law. So attempts were made to institutionalize the BNC until ultimately the BNC was properly absorbed into the National Security Service by operation of law when we passed the NSP Act. The attempt to legalize covert operations in this country for the interception and the communication does not deviate from all the other operations that the NIB and the others do. If the National Security Coordinator, now passed, and I've seen that letter, authorizes some transaction at UNB involving a private company, that does not do three things. One, it does not tell us that in 2018, when this company was set up, the National Security Council or through delegated instrument to the National Security Ministry authorized the creation of the company. Forget the account for a minute. Creation of the company.
I must bring to your attention something though, that the company was not set up in 2018. I'm privy to information that shows that the company was actually set up in 2016 in November, but in October 2018 there was a change of shareholding and directors. So the company predates, the alleged authorization, so to speak.
That is fine, but my point is nonetheless the same, which is that you need proof of authorization by a competent body, not anybody.
Okay.
And I've tried to explain that there are limitations to the powers of the National Security Coordinator in the Act. The National Security Coordinator does not operate by fiat. He is subject to the National Security Minister in everything he does. So until you prove to us that the National Security Minister authorized the setup of a specific purpose vehicle, a special purpose vehicle, we cannot take your words to mean much. That's number one. Number two, if that was the case, there would be records.
Sorry, Bright. That National Security Minister, that National Security Coordinator he's referring to is dead.
It's dead. Yes, I know. He died of COVID. But the National Security Coordinator must only act on instruction of the National Security Minister.
All right.
So the authorization must come from the National Security Minister, who must report the matter to the National Security Council, which is chaired by the President, who hands over in their own classified briefing. Because remember that the National Security briefings are daily, and it goes to the Council. Now, if the President is handing over any critical projects of this nature, may be referred to. If they are deemed to not be essential, they may be waived. But the current President will know, because the National Security Council is an ongoing institution. So that's number two. Number three, even if the company was authorized, let's say the company was authorized, and let's say going further than that, the UMB account, which is a separate matter, was also authorized. And let's say going further than that, it was also authorized that money that has been designated for the purpose of buying the spyware for some reason must be obscured through this account. No serious security experts that I know of can countenance the fact that in attempting to obscure the source of the money, you will put, first of all, use the same name as the name of the agency, which is the BNC. On top of that, use a director of the company will be the acting head of that agency and his relative. If our goal is obscuring, if our goal is security, what kind of logic is that?
He says his wife was vetted. His wife went through a vetting process.
Sorry? But I'm saying that it does not obscure the source then. So what would be the point? If the goal was that because we don't want it to be seen to be coming from the National Security Services, we want it to pass through a private company, a shell company, to obscure the source, to give us enhanced confidentiality. How will you pass it through a company that any lay person who does a check will immediately link it to national security?
Okay.
So it doesn't make a lot of sense.
All right.
If there is an explanation, it must be already evident in the files at National Security Council, which, as I've tried to explain to you, is a continuing and functioning organism. And that National Security Council is chaired by the current president, and all the key ministers, foreign minister, and chair minister are on it now. If all of these people are aware of all the dynamics, still think that this was unauthorized, I find it very difficult how anybody will be to prove that these are authorized operations.
Okay.
Unless you argue that somehow they have disappeared the files and you have your own private files. Even so, what about the diversion of the monies? That we have budgets dedicated to ISC to buy spyware. How do you justify those movements without any records whatsoever?
All right.
There are fiscal rules
Thank you.
at play. So we have to look at it in all of those dimensions. And when you do so, you come to the inevitable conclusion that this is irrelevant to the core issue, if his point is to open a separate conversation about how money for other operations have been wasted, that's a different matter.
Thank you very much.
We welcome that.
Right. Thank you very much, Bright Simmons. Bright Simmons there. And thank you very much indeed for the analysis, incisive that you have done to assist this, discussion going forward. Now, let me come back to the studio, and Vera is also online with us. Bright Simmons is Honorary Vice President of Imani Africa. Now, so Dennis, you were about to make your comments when Bright had to come in. He has a flight to catch, so he's done with us. Thank you.
Yes, I'm sure I'm not the only one feeling this way. We've been bombarded with a lot of information, a lot of assumptions, hypotheses, and I think that Bright's assumptions and hypotheses are rightly so because we have brought it upon ourselves. To be very honest, why are we even doing this? You found somebody have committed a crime. You're the Attorney General. Do your investigation. Finish it. Sometimes, even you, media houses, you have reporters in the court. Several cases, some are even worse than this that are in the courts. When the courts start their hearing, a lot of information will come out. And at that point, it will no longer be assumptions and hypotheses. There will be information that are being divulged in the courts, and then we can also consume some. We are here simply because we attempted to combine politics with law. And that's why we are doing this to ourselves. Because, 30 minutes presentation from Bright, and it's all assumptions. What if it comes out that, if we realize that, should it be the case that...
It's not all assumptions.
Oh, 90%, Samson. That is what it is. So if it's 90, then it's all. That is what it is.
He makes an emphatic statement.
Like what?
That the claims do not hold water.
According to him, he is not the court.
So that's an assumption.
It's an assumption. You're not the court. You're not the court. You're not the judge. So according to you, that is it.
This is different from the court.
No. On what basis is he saying that? According to him. That is what it is. The only person in this country, or the only persons who can make such emphatic statements are the courts. Otherwise, what you say, what I say, what counsel says, what doc says are all assumptions.
You can't separate what has happened now from what is going on in the court.
I am saying that what he is saying, it's his view based on hypothesis. Because you see, this is conclusion that he gave is based on a presentation that he made, which were simply, if he doesn't have authorization from the minister, what if he does? Did we even know that there was authorization from a national security coordinator? We didn't know until the issue came up, and then later that also popped up. So there are so many things we may not know at this point. So many things. Why? Why are we spending 1 hour, 2 hours to discuss something that will ultimately find itself in the court? Even the Attorney General himself has come out to say that, hold the man in jail for me, but I'm still investigating. And then you say that if he didn't know for a fact, he doesn't know for a fact. That's why he's still keeping the man in jail, so that he continues his investigations.
He knows for a fact. Have you seen the charge sheet?
I am coming.
If you
have concluded your investigation, you won't go to the judge and say, he's still interfering with investigation, give me time, I need to finish investigation. That's what we know for a fact. That is what in the past week he has told the judge. That hold the man for me, because I'm still investigating. Why are we doing this ourselves? I'm not holding breath for anybody. I am only saying that we shouldn't mix politics with law. You are the lawyers, you know it. So you found out that this gentleman may have committed some crime. Then you came to hold a press conference. In fact, you almost, or should I say, even pronounced him guilty. And even said that you are very sure that if he doesn't come and negotiate, he may go for 25 years. And added so many things. You went on to list things, properties, and all. So you see, in the first place, you created a certain impression in the minds of the Ghanaian public that the man is guilty. And let's be fair, that was what was done. And Samson, do you think it would be fair for this to happen to you? No matter the crime you've even committed. When we have a law that even describes a murderer as not guilty until proven same, what was done to the gentleman? Do you think it would be fair on you? Because even today, if this man should go through the court processes and come out not guilty, he can never take off the taint that has been placed on him.
Oh, why not?
How? How? The number of people, you know how media works. Sometimes I always tell people, one of the reasons why when I'm on media platforms, I make sure that when somebody says something and I don't let it pass. Because you see, the number of people who are watching this now, you may not have all of them watching you tomorrow morning. So there are people who watch the Attorney General or listen to him just in a car, in a trotro, and didn't even have the chance to listen to him, his second presser on the gentleman. There are some who listen to the Attorney General and have not had the chance to see this letter the gentleman has written. So all I am saying is that we say we run a country by law, and the country's law are clear. I am not guilty until proven same. We should just slow down on this matter. You see, if you read,
do you classify the U.S. as an advanced democracy?
Yes, very much.
Okay. Do you know what the DA's departments do?
What do they do?
The district attorneys.
What do they do?
When they have matters of public interest, they call the press. That's what they do.
They don't. I've never seen any DA or anybody hold the press and declare somebody they have guilty and say that he is going to go to jail for.
They do, and they tell you that's why they are going to court.
I haven't seen
that if they are not sure that the person will be found guilty, they will go to court.
I haven't seen that. You have seen it. Okay. But the point here is that it is the reason why today you read the man's statement and he says, I am here in jail. I am being accused and almost being tried in the public space for stealing a certain 49 million. As a result of that, even other unrelated things are being connected to it. I mean, I listened to Brighton, almost about 40% of the things he said are not related to the specific charge, the 49 million. He's not talking about, doing something without authorization, and talking about the laws and procurement and all those things, and budgeting for national security. That is not related to the specific matter. But he says that I am quite hesitant in divulging certain information to my interrogators because I know what is involved. But over the past weeks, I've been attempting to meet you, the National Security Coordinator, but I believe that because of your busy schedule, we haven't been able to meet. Considering the exigencies of the situation, I have to now write to you. And in my current position, I am telling you that you may have found out by now, and he has that in his statement, as you may have realized by now. You see, there is a coded message there that is clearly indicating that whoever is the National Security Coordinator should either know whether the guy is lying or not, whether he knows about the 49 million, whether the 49 million, as he claims he has utilized it, is authorized or not. The National Security Coordinator should know by now. He should have that information. And Mr. Adu-Boahen clearly captures that in his statement. Then he goes on to list, line by line item, what it is that he has done, or he did, or the agency did with the 49 million. Then he comes to the issue of the company. And he says that I did not get up to go and create a certain company and move money into it. This company was created with the authorization of my bosses. This is the letter. And the letter is there showing that a certain boss of his wrote to him that do this. Why did you use your wife? We will not know. The national security architecture should come and tell the court. Should come and tell the court why a certain head of a national security institution decides to use their wives. They may have genuine reasons. I have been an MC before, at least. In my municipality, I had the pleasure of seeing chop bar owners, barbers, carpenters, and several kind of persons in this country who are operating in the national security for various reasons. So at this juncture, everything you say is purely based on assumptions, speculations, hypothesis. There is only one thing we know for a fact. A certain 49 million cedis was moved from the Signal Bureau's account into a certain BNC account, which happens to be for the head of the Signal Bureau. That's all. Which was supposed to have been meant for payment of a software. That is the only information that, at the moment, in the public space, we know for a fact. Now, the person has come back and said, oh, okay, you are right. I'm not denying that we moved some 49 million. But this is what the 49 million was meant for. And this is why the 49 million found itself in the BNC account. Now here we are, sitting down now with two, call it contradicting information. Attorney General is saying one thing, the defendant is also saying another thing. And then we are here using hypothesis to determine one of them being right or wrong. At the moment, Samson, you and I, neither of us here can determine whether what Mr. Adu-Boahen has said is factual or not. None of us can do that.
We can ask questions.
Yes, that is the only extent.
Including that the Attorney General's charge sheet and the accompanying statement are emphatic and conclusive that monies have been stolen, there's been money laundering, there's been defrauding, and there's been causing financial loss. That there was a purported plan to purchase an installation. And the monies that were supposed to be advanced to the ICS holding that company were given. As we sit now, we don't have that equipment, but monies have been paid.
Okay, so you see, that is why I keep saying that we are just hitting ourselves and some people are getting BPs for nothing. It's a matter of fact. Even the defendant has not denied that some 49 million cedis was moved. But these things you are stating that the Attorney General has charged, the Attorney General is not the court. Doesn't the Attorney General of this country go to court all the time and lose? So the fact that you've indicated certain things in your charge sheet are not necessarily factual or conclusive. That is why you are going to court. You have to go to court and go and prove and provide evidence to your charges on the sheet. The defendant also has the right to also defend himself. So here you are, you've listed plenty things. The gentleman has also written and also provided some information to his defense. And even gone ahead to say that National Security Coordinator, now that you have the benefit of more information on this subject matter, I advise that you engage your colleague because I have a right to defend myself and I'm still holding on to more information. You call it blackmail. Why are you calling it blackmail? Doesn't the Attorney General also know that the person you are trying to prosecute cannot be prosecuted like any other citizen? Which is also fact. You know that. Because of the role that he plays in this country. No, please let me. Because of the role he plays in this country. So Samson, the charge sheet means nothing. The charge sheet is only things that you claim you have information on. The defendant's also, his letter is also nothing. His letter is also claims of what he thinks are his defense. That is why I think we shouldn't be going around these circles. We should simply go to the courts. Go and adduce your evidence that you have on the gentleman in court. Give him room to also come and adduce evidence to whatever it is that he's indicating as his defense. But you bringing in other things and he has houses, so what? Samson, you work at multimedia. You are a lawyer. But I'm sure you have other businesses. So if I come and pick your multimedia salary and say, Samson, you tell this we how much they make and see all these things they do, it doesn't necessarily mean that you are a thief. I must prove that indeed which other property or asset you have actually connects to whatever it says that I claim you have stolen.
In the courtroom, Adu-Boahen has the right to be absolutely silent and not to say one word and allow the Attorney General to prove his guilt up to a certain point.
Yes. No, but let me conclude. Just give me an indication of conclusion, I'll conclude. Okay. So the point I'm making is that all these hypotheses and speculations and if, as a matter of fact, I can also tell Bryce Simmons that, yes, the National Security Minister authorized it. Then it negates every other assumption he's making. That, yes, the National Security Council is also aware. Then it negates everything. We don't know these things for a fact. So all these charts and attempts to, create a certain correlation based on some formulas, they do not help in law. We are just doing politics with the matter. The Attorney General should freeze all these public engagements. Mr. Adu-Boahen should cease writing anymore. After all, he knew the kind of sensitive role he was going for. He's been a national security couple. He understands what comes with the job. He should go to court and go and defend himself.
Thank you.
Attorney General should go to court and go and prove it.
Attorney General is in court.
So he should stop talking. That's what we are saying.
He's not been talking.
Oh, he has been.
He spoke and went to
court. And spoke again. He's back. He's done press conferences twice.
Before he went to court.
No, after court he came back. The second press conference was after he's been to court.
No. So after he had filed the charges.
So before the charges, he came to speak.
Okay, thank you.
Then he went to court.
All right.
Then when he went to court, he came back to speak.
So the day the charges were filed, the Attorney General spoke. That was the last time.
Yeah, but he's been speaking. So he's been speaking, not once.
I want to state, as a matter of fact, that he's not been speaking afterwards.
After what? He has been speaking afterwards. The day he came to do the the last press conference he did, were they not already in court?
That was the day the charges were filed.
But it was after the court.
So the fact I'm bringing out is that after that, the Attorney General has not been.
That is speaking twice. That is what you should.
Thank you.
That's speaking twice.
Thank you. So, Victor.
Yes.
We will look at the other aspect of what goes on, call it the political underworld, because these revelations must not be taken lightly. But questions must be asked. He's raising issues about expenditure in 2024. The matters for which he's standing trial relate to 2020 and 2021, I think. Expenditure around that time. And as we understand, I suppose, the accounts must have been closed by 2023 or so. But he's referring to expenses appear to come from the same account even after. And so we are talking about after December of 2024. What do you say?
Samson, before I even move to the substantive issue, let me extend my deepest condolence to Sampi Yali,
his family.
His family, the Yali family. I contested him as SIC president. He was SIC president of the Ghana School of Law.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And he's done so much for the party and himself. And also, one of my mates, Adipa, Joseph Adipa, he's also being buried today. That's why I'm in black.
Okay.
And at the same time, let's come to the living. I think the Minister for Government Communication, today is his birthday, that of the Lands.
Oh, Felix.
Yes, the Lands Minister also. And the former First Lady, Nadu Mills. I think that I wish them the best of their day. Samson, looking at this whole issue, I think that when we look at what Brett Simmons has done, it is more of putting the law and the financial laws together. What the National Security and Intelligence Act, what he did. So I think it would be unfair for my brother Miracles to say that it's all assumptions.
Oh, wow.
Because what he stated, most of it was the law, how the accounts and everything, the law guides it.
Because I'm saying that based on the ifs. They were all ifs.
So proceed so that he doesn't take your space.
Yeah. So those are the things. And you see, the issue we are discussing today is about the love letter he wrote whilst he was in jail. And when
custody.
He was in, custody. And when I saw it, I cringed. I was like, this guy is being defended by one of the consummate lawyers we have in this country, my learned friend Atachia. And if I saw what he had written, it presupposed that would have been his defense. That this money you are accusing me of, this is how the money was used and it was authorized. So I've not stolen any money. So I cringed. I was like, sometimes as a lawyer, what your client wants to do, you don't have the final decision. Maybe he had. But if I was, or at least maybe attached, I don't think this would have come into public domain.
Really?
Yes, because
everything before they were put in court was put in the public. So he too has a right to reach out to the public.
He has a right.
Even if it's classified information, right?
Yes. But you see, that even brings another dimension to it. Because if you were a security couple, when taking office, you've taken the oath of secrecy. When leaving office, you also take an oath. And once you divulge the information in the performance of your duty against that oath, it comes with punishment.
Performance of which duty? He's no more there.
No. It's in the National Security Intelligence Act. It was in the Act. It's here. You see, oath of secrecy on leaving office.
You said performance of duty.
It's here. It's here. Have resigned from the appointment or have appointment terminated by internal external. Do hereby in the name of solemnly I will not directly or indirectly communicate or reveal a matter to a person which is considered by me or came to my knowledge in the discharge of my official duties, save as may be required or permitted by law. And there's a punishment when you divulge that. So looking at it even from that perspective alone, that what you have said when you were not authorized also brings another thing that you may be taking on. So that's why I'm looking at that perspective.
And it's not on stealing.
No, because you have divulged some information that is not supposed to be. Now, I would say, looking at what has come out, yes, he has rights, procedural rights. He has decided to put this information, and we are interrogating the information. If he has, it is duly authorized. This money was disbursed, and he says it's duly authorized by his bosses. I don't think then there is no case. And I'm sure the Attorney General, in doing the investigation, and others would have had this information. And you see, the supervising body of the National Signals Bureau, by their own act, Section 4 says it's the National Security Council, which is chaired by the President. And also it talks in Section 5 of National Signals Bureau that when it comes to policy directives, policy everything, it is national security. The minister would have to give you approve those policies. Now, when you even come to Section 13 of the National Signals Bureau, they have legal directorates, they have finance and administration. So there's no way you can disburse all this money and say that once you say it is authorized, the finance department will not know about the money, the national security coordinator will not know, the minister. So if this is his defense, he should wait and have his day in court. Now this brings us, so for me, all that he has brought about saying that it is authorized, and this is the national security thing they were bringing to the public domain, so be it if he had followed the lay down. And don't forget that the National Security, the Security Intelligence Act, also they have an operational account with Bank of Ghana. And Parliament has to always approve their budget. They approve their budget. It is only when some information is required. So Parliament has, they always say it's unaccountable impress that is sent, but it must follow the rules, the laws. So that is why they must be approved. The Auditor General, as we have said, also audits the accounts. So it's not like you use any money anyhow. They have to audit the account. Now, if you look at it, all he was saying, and I always advise my clients sometimes, you see, when you are accused or you are put arraigned before the court, the first and foremost is that you must consider your interest. You are individual. It's not about the party. But once you start putting in political spokes, that it becomes like a political potato to play. At the end of the day, it is not the party that will go with you. The party will follow you. They will come to court. But at the end of the day, when they say you are guilty, you are going alone. The party will retire. They will go on. The whole press conference, we disagree, but it's about you. So I always tell clients that when you have issues that has political undertone, be careful the way you go. They will come and shout. They are devotees, they are supporters. They will come and do. So now this also brings. So when you say we gave money to political opponents or opposition parties, what I know they do is that they are more of complementers and collaborators, so that it is a number of games. So that when we are able to collaborate with you, and we have seen it all over every time it happens, they bring the smaller parties together so that they can oppose, and governments always does that.
So your suspicion is that this money he speaks about giving to political parties, opposition parties, would not have gone to NDC?
No. NDC has denied. And even money, it has denied that they never got any communication. What I know national security would sometimes do is to plant their people within the political parties. They give them money so that they gather information, intelligence. While they purport, we are giving you something to some of the party members, which may not be even disclosed to the party leadership, so that they can get some information and intelligence. Now, once you say you've given money to the parliamentarians, right? This is a standard thing that happened. And I spoke to some of the parliamentarians. What happens is that they always have budgets to approve some of the LIs, the laws, and the rest. So when you come and you don't want delay within what have to be done, what they tell you is that the Ministry of Finance hasn't released money for us to do what we have to do. But if your agency wants this to be approved speedily, what you have to do is, if you can finance it from your budget, IGF, it is up to you. This is our budget. When we go out, this is the per diem. This is what it entails. So if you are ready as an institution that this should be done for you, they give you the budget and you pay it to Parliament. At the end of the day, the members who sit. So when you come and you say, I gave money to parliamentarians, it's not as if it is a bribe that you have given to them. This is the procedure I understood. Now, when you also talk about I've given money to the aides, we all know who are the aides to the president. Unless the people, the staffers who were in his office, somebody took money, which we have not heard, or names have not been mentioned up to date, right? And I think that at the time, we knew Joyce Bauer was the aide, and Felix was the aide. I think the two of them have denied that they never had any money for. Yes, they never had any.
That's what everybody denies at the first.
Yes,
instance.
so there will be records. So
Yes,
if there are
that's the
records,
point.
there are payments, there are receipts, we will all get to know.
Yes.
Now, my last point on this issue.
Your last point, but I asked a question.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying for us to not do the same thing we have heard over the period since this, secret thing was released.
Yeah.
There are timelines about what must have happened. As we are aware, this account in question was closed in 2023.
Yes.
So if we are talking about the issues that are forming the basis for the courts, you don't even bring in this December 2024 matter.
Exactly.
Correct?
Correct.
Why not?
Now,
Because I'm looking at us being able to isolate the issues so that we don't do a general thing that buries and doesn't help
You
our
can't
audience.
isolate the issues if you don't have all the facts.
We can isolate them,
can't.
even now.
You don't have all the
now,
information,
Samson,
so you can't.
Samson, I think that
You don't have all
what
the
happens
information.
is that in doing this, bring the issues of 2020 to 2023, that has been done. You are opening the Pandora box. You have opened.
He didn't open it. The Attorney General.
No, he wrote a letter. The Attorney General didn't state that it was 2020. What the Attorney General stated was that in 2024, this was the money that went into your account. And now you are saying that even 2020-21, this is what the money was used
Attorney
for.
General said where? That in 2024, some money was...
No, the money that he has charged him of...
That's not 2024. That's 2020, 2021. Thereabout.
Yes.
It's not about 2024.
Yes. So, and he is saying that this money that I'm being accused of, this is how it was used.
Yes.
Right? So if this is how it was used, now you open the Pandora box. We'll have to go in
Let me read
and find out what happened.
Let me read one of the charges for you so we don't go misquoting the timelines. Count 1.
Yeah.
Adu-Boahen, that you on or about February 5, 2020, in Accra and within the jurisdiction of this court did, under the guise of procuring a cyber defense system for the Republic of Ghana from ISC Holdings Limited, dishonestly appropriated the sum of about 27,100,000 Ghana cedis belonging to the Republic of Ghana with the intention of depriving the government of Ghana the same amount. Then it comes to March of 2020, where 1 million was also here said to have been misappropriated. Then to March 30, where 21 million for the same, implement or device was said to have been misappropriated. Okay? And then if you get to the count 4, it says in February and March 2020, in Accra and within the jurisdiction of this court, you did agree to act together to steal the sum of about 49,100,000 Ghana cedis belonging to the Republic of Ghana. So they are talking about matters of between February and March of 2020.
Yes, but Samson, you know that a crime, there is no bar to criminal activities. When it comes, a crime that has been committed, no matter the year.
That's not what we are talking about. We're talking about monies in 2024. What do they have to do with 2020?
But he has but he has told you that he is only giving you information that there are more. But talk to your Attorney General. So that's what I'm saying, calm down. He may still have explanations for the utilization of the 2020, 2018, 2019. He's only saying that, as you may be aware since you took office, about this particular account, please talk to your guys. And I've been looking forward to meeting you so we can have a discussion. It hasn't been possible. That's why I'm writing. So the point you are making, I get where you are coming from, but I'm saying that he has clearly given you an indication that this is only one of the things that I have to explain.
Thank you.
And so please talk to your guys. That's all he's saying.
Thank you. And Victor, I remember this was a platform, the first time that Mustafa Hamid blew the whistle on the NCA matter, which went to court and William Tavie and the rest, suffered jail. And it was about same equipment we're talking about. Anytime we interrogated it, the question we asked was, now where is the thing? Money has been spent. Where is the thing? So the question that I want Dennis to also pay attention to is that the prosecutors are minded to ask a question.
Definitely.
You say that this is money earmarked for this device. In 2020, in February and in March, you took money to pay for this device. We are in 2025. Where is it?
I think that's the crux of the matter. Just like the NCA matter. The NCA matter. You see, history is playing, is unfolding. Now, if the equipment was available, I'm sure that the Attorney General will know. But we are being told that the equipment is not available. And that was the crux of the matter in the NCA matter.
Okay.
And it's the similar thing that is being done. All that he's giving us another lead is that we should go back and check from 2020. That is a lead to the Attorney General, a clue that go. There may be things that were done from 2020. So for me, it is a good thing for the Attorney General to go and look back and see that were there authorization, what was supposed to be procured? Was it procured or not? So in this, that's why I said, if it was me, my strategy, some of these things will be my defense that I will have looked at. But once you have helped and you brought it out, now it is for the investigators to
why are you assuming that, Counsel? Why are you assuming that this is all my defense?
No.
What if I'm baiting you?
No. I
get your point. I'm only saying that. What if, as a defense, this is also part of my strategy? I'm also baiting you.
So thank you.
I have more.
That's why I'm saying that let's take more work to do.
Thank you.
Let's go to
Vera, come in and come in and let's. Prof, you spoke first, but I'll come back to you again from Vera. Yeah. Yes, Vera. What do you make of the developments?
Have we lost it?
Hello, Vera.
So it goes back to political financing. It goes back to
your microphone is on.
Oh, sorry.
The public can hear you.
Sorry.
Vera.
I can hear you.
Okay, go ahead. Let's hear you now.
Okay. So first of all, what do we know about this case? Attorney General was quite clear with his charges and came out and read out to us that money has been transferred, properties are in your name. And so, in fact, for this letter, this is the first time we are hearing from Mr. Adu-Boahen. All these weeks, this is the first time we are hearing from him.
Perhaps the first time we heard him was the suit he filed against the Attorney General.
Right. So through his lawyers, it sounds like, okay, this is what he's telling us about the whole case. For the suit, that's another matter. So for him to come out and give out this information, which was supposed to be confidential, however, some way, somehow, it found its way to the public. And so for me, his approach, it's a bit bizarre for me, because if this information he's telling us are quite classified, as he put it, I know there are processes and procedures that can be facilitated, arranged in court for these conversations to be done. And so he will have his day in court. And also, if all these activities were done in the interest of the state, and he has to do this in the interest of the state, then there was no even need for him to share this information with us. It means that he's going to have a day, he's not done anything wrong, he's going to prove whatever it is. In fact,
his reputation was on. The whole world had come to know that he was a criminal. I mean, he had used his office to amass wealth and done all of these things, and you say that he should wait. If the trial will take 4 or 5 years, or even sometimes the trial can take 20, 40 years, he should wait until then?
Not yet. You see, even when Attorney General started his first press conference, you realize the reaction from the public. We said that if you have a case against him, charge him, prosecute him. So it's not just about, even for Attorney General, he has to prove this case. So he's not guilty until he goes through the process. So we can't quickly condemn him. We can't quickly put him that, this is what he's done. We are waiting for the process to continue. And so it shouldn't just be that, there's a response. And so because of his letter, do we just say that, okay, this is a national security matter, so we just end the process? So we are no longer going to go into the details. No, he needs to prove these processes in court, and questions must be asked. And so maybe AG, this is the time AG has to probably waive any confidentiality arrangement, because the public is now interested. He's put some information out there. The current administration has been cited, Parliament has been cited about it. So it means that we need to really know what is happening, and if importantly, if he's going to put out information for us to see it. If it is national security matter, and this information and the activities he has put out there, just like Bright was saying, these activities are known, or these projects are known, and for every project, there should be a trail. There should be some paperwork. Are there receipts? Can we have an evidence or some explanations that these monies were spent on something? So we can't just say this were used for national operations and quote just box everything to one aspect and so this was paid to Parliament committee. How did we pay it? Did we just give it to them as bribe, or it was to facilitate whatever? So I think we need more explanation, and I thought that we need this information and not just putting this out there to cut the process. For us to hear from him, and also his position as a director in this position, I thought that there's a bit of confidentiality.
Vera, what I can tell you is that you're expecting the Attorney General, the prosecutors, to come out and speak on the back of what he has put out. No, they do not intend to. They do not intend to do so, because we have tried to speak to them. They do not intend to do so. However, they are certain that the charges they have put before the court, this appears to be a diversionary tactic, and they are going on because they know for a fact that the wrongs that they have accused him in court are wrongs that were done, and he's going to be prosecuted on them.
So again, his response or his letter, my question again is that, is it a response to the charges? Because you had read the charges, for some of the charges for us to see. Is it a direct response? Because it's not, I don't think this is really a response to the charges. AG was clear about all the charges, and we know the charges. If he really wanted us to know, Mr. Adu-Boahene wanted us to know, then he would take charge by charge and tell us and give us a response. I'm sure he didn't intend to give us, but whatever it is, he wanted the public to also know. And just like we are looking at, maybe it's opportunity for him to also explain. But the explanation really doesn't give us response to the charges.
This is what Adu-Boahene says in the letter. As this ridiculous drama unfolds, some 49 million Ghana cedis of special operations funds have now become the subject of court action, where my wife and I, as well as other affiliates, are being accused with charges including stealing and causing financial loss to the state. What else do you want to hear from him?
No, so Samson, the monies we are talking about in this case is a lot of money. It's not just any small amount we are talking about. This is a lot of money, and these charges are really serious matter. And so I don't think that just this response is enough for us to say that, okay, this was for national operation. So yeah, and so what? Do we just drop the case? Do we just forget about it? No, we are interested. We want answers. We really want answers and explanations. What are the traces? There should be some evidence, and this is what we want to look out for, that this process must continue in court. We don't think this should just be us to say that, okay, because it's a national security matter. We have seen a lot of the state coming to say, this is a matter of national security, and so they have to be accountable. These are state funds, and so we can't just, in the name of this letter, say because they have some national security implications, we are just ending it there. And I'm sure the national security coordinator himself might have advised AG that this is an issue that we need to take precautions. So we don't even need Mr. Adu-Boahene to say that this is a matter of national security for the AG to continue to prosecute. So
Adu-Boahene is saying that if this continues, we run the risk of public disclosure of national security intelligence operations and expenditure. And he has already done a certain disclosure to you. If you continue, it's like a subtle threat. People have said, if you continue to pursue me when I am not wrong, as it were, together with my wife and my affiliates, my company and the other lady, then get ready. Or as for you at CDD, you are happy that you hear a lot more, national security stuff.
Something we are interested. In fact, we are interested, and I don't think we should just pause and say because these are security concerns, and if you call, let's say, threat or whatever it is, that we are not going to talk about it. We need to have a conversation. We need transparency. In fact, the national security needs to be accountable. If the AG is going after the case, it means that if he has a reasonable excuse that this was done in the interest of the state, he had it didn't go into his personal account, all the charges are false, and these are in the interest of the state, then he shouldn't even be saying anything. He just have to just prove to the state and give us all the receipts and paper trail. We need accountability and transparency. We are, based on the things he's mentioned, what is a threat to the security of the state? That monies went to the parliament, somebody must account for it. If it went without, we need an evidence that this all money go to the parliament, as he's saying, where it go to the opposition, as he's saying, at the aid, as he's saying. Can we have some evidence? Or it was all cash, they went to the bank and collected cash and gave, so we are not able to get any evidence of it. Some of the activities he mentioned are projects running that we all saw, or at least we have an evidence of seeing some project done by the national security. And every project or activity, at least there's maybe a fuel they had bought, somebody might have signed for transportation, somebody might have signed for a per diem or something. We need to have evidence of some of the project. And for some of these issues, we see something we can also hide behind national security and not account to the state. Let's remember, this is state money. This is state money and a lot of resources, something, I think we are mentioning the money and it sounds like, 7.2 million, 8.3 million. We mentioned the money, and it's just like, oh, it's just money went here and all of that. This is a lot of money gone into some activities that is telling us that national security is a national security paying Parliament to do this work. If Parliament indeed knows the importance of passing the enactment of the NSB law, they have to be paid this amount of money before their work is being done, whilst the state is also paying Parliament for all the work they are doing. So there's a lot of questions. In fact, it raises a lot of questions. We need to really give him an opportunity to defend this, but I don't think the letter alone is enough. This is his word against the AG, and we don't have to just end it there. We need explanation, we need receipts, we need some paper trail. The national security needs to really be accountable to us as Ghanaians. And now, maybe just as
Vera, what paper trail do you want again? He's saying that you are charging him over a 49 million money in that amount. And he's telling you that for special operations in 2020, they spent 9 million. For another operation called Operation Conquer, they spent 6 million. So 9 plus 6. Then Operation Calm, there's almost 4 million. Then there is election security ops allowances, that's 7 million. Then there is election security again, another 6 million, almost 7 million. Then there is the support for opposition party, 8 million. There is election logistics, 5 million. And then the little money. Try and put all of that together. You'll find that he's accounted for the money you say he has stolen.
Samson, no. What is Operation Calm or Yabaze? What is it?
You never heard about Operation Calm Live?
So what went into it? We just said Operation Calm, that we give out the money. It doesn't work like that. Even for our own money, Samson, for our own amount, annual income and whatever comes to our, we look at it, what have you spent your money on? We try to be accountable to ourselves, even the money that we have worked for. How much more the money for the states that you and I have contributed, all the taxes we have paid, and then we say that we, in the name of national security, we can't account for it. Please, I think that we really need to have a look at this as, again, accountability is important, transparency is important, and we don't just have to allow this to just go away. When AG started the first press conference, we told him that if you have a case, please charge him. Let him respond. So not just, the letter shouldn't be enough and just boxing one activity, this is what I spent. If you spent it on, he's left as a director, but the office is still operating. There should be an officers who are there who should be able to bring out all these activities, or there should be, even if it's a corporation and all of that. So Samson, I think that the monies we are talking about is a lot of money, and we shouldn't just let it go.
Thank you very much, Vera.
But must be accountable. And the AG, we expect that he will also fast track this process, and if he has to even waive any confidentiality proceedings, because we are interested.
Thank you, Vera. Dr. Akwete, I want to hear you in a minute or two, and then we take a break. Then return to the other matters that we have to look at.
Thank you for the clarifications and the different perspectives thrown here. But for me, first of all, I thought intelligence matters. He's put something out, but maybe the motive was to show that whatever has been seized, those vehicles and so on, it's not what this money has been used for. I didn't have access to various other information and the whole history of the thing. But I think he was so concerned about maybe the reason why he's in jail to the public. They have amassed wealth and bought some expensive vehicles and so on.
Presently, he's on remand.
Pardon?
Presently, he's on remand.
He's remand, yes. And maybe it will be attributed to this, and he say, no, we've not done that. So I thought this was specifically aimed at the public, getting to know that what we have is not from this money and so on. But I also thought it's a security matter, and the extent to which the details or the truth would come out would depend on, it's a court case. Security things are not usually put in the public domain easily, isn't it? Unless he's in court and now they've opened. Even in court sometimes, they might close the tap, especially if they feel they are sensitive matters to be looked at. So that's why when I started, I said, well, we need more information to understand what it is. But the psychological aspect of the interpretation of this was, for me, was that his vehicles and all properties that maybe people would assume he's acquired, it's not from this money, it's not from the Bureau, the intelligence office, but it's for him then to tell us what it is.
Okay.
He used then. Yeah, that was how I...
Thank you very much. And a senior lawyer says, national security accountability is clearly catered for in the Constitution. So Bryce Simon took us through quite a bit of that. And Victor Adaudu also did that. But he says, national security accountability is clearly catered for in the Constitution. A prosecutor can allege violations or breaches of the law. It is up to the accused to raise national security classification of particular documents, whereupon Article 135 kicks in. The Supreme Court can then hear the matter in camera and examine the documents involved to determine whether or not the documents should be disclosed. One is not allowed to allege a blanket immunity or classification. Factual base must always be determined by the court and refers us to a particular court decision that insists that this is what has to be done. This is Newsfile.
So you give counsel.
It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. The show is brought to you by the kindest sponsorship of Bank of Africa, as strong as a group and close as a partner. MTN everywhere you go. Ashesi University. Please, those who pay for this show, give them the credit that they are due, because you are looking for 1 minute. Hold on. This show is brought to you by the kindest sponsorship of Bank of Africa, as strong as a group and close as a partner. MTN, everywhere you go. Ashesi University, educating ethical and entrepreneurial leaders for Africa. In fact, in Ashesi University, they have a law program that seeks to train lawyers to think beyond being transactional. That's when you get the lawyers to make money out of it. That's not all. Robert & Sons Optical Services, your comprehensive eye care service provider for 33 plus years. My Way Insurance, dial *165# on MTN to join My Way today. Flamingo Paints, simply superior. Syntex Tanks, it's strong, it's tough. Activa International Insurance, our clients are passion. International Facilities Management Association are also proud to be associated with your most authoritative news analysis platform, Newsfile. We will take a break. We'll return to briefly look at the question of asset declaration, for which the president is cracking the whip, and the code that has been introduced to ask to what extent it will bring some discipline into governance. And then, of course, we will canvass our very final issue also for you. The president has done some 123 days in office, but he has a whopping 1,338 days left. Let's check what he has done so far to project into what he will be doing. We'll be right back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. Thank you very much, Doc. Doc tells me that President Mahama has 1,461 days to serve as president between 2025 and 2029. He has done 123 days, representing 8.4%. Okay, thank you. Interesting. So there is 120-day contract that the president entered with us. In the 120-day contract, we can put the asset issue, we can put the code of conduct issue, and many people see the code of conduct as new. This is not new, really. Are you not aware that in previous Mahama regime, this code, I have not done the, as it were, clause by clause analysis, but it's like, it's the old one. You just picked it back and give it a new name that you've dusted and done. But nonetheless, people are happy that there's something that will hold people to account and so on and so forth. So let's begin this one with Vera. So Vera, the matter of the asset declaration and the code, you guys at CDD are excited about it, that a president decides that he's going to police his people to declare their assets. And then he gives them a deadline. Some do not meet it. Then he says you lose 3 months of your salary to the Mahama Cares, Mahama Trust, the medical facility. And then he gives them another couple of days and says, if you don't finish, then you are going to lose your job completely. You're happy about that, are you not?
We are, Samson, and we must commend Mr. President for this action, because compliance has been the major challenge for us on our own constitutional requirements. This is something the states, we have decided that if we have to declare your assets even before assuming your office or your role. Unfortunately, we haven't seen much of this, and you see, the asset declaration is a preventive measure. It's not just for the sake of it. It's important that officials, any public, maybe let me also put it that we need some level of education, civic education in our communities, our schools, to let the public know that the moment you accept to serve the state, the moment you accept to serve in the public service, you must know that these are some of the compromises you have to make. These are the risks. If you do not want anyone to check what you are doing and for you to declare your assets and find out, I'm sure Samson, no one will ask you to declare your asset because you are serving in your private capacity. But the moment you are in as a public servant official, you really need to abide by this. And we thank the president and also for Fourth Estate for being consistent with this. We realized that in 2023, they came out with the names again of public officers who had not declared their assets. We didn't see any action done. And so for us, we are happy that the president has really taken action on this. And what is also important is that we need some updates. We need to find out what happened to them. Indeed, was the salaries deducted and also donated to the fund, as he said, because already we have a very low trust for our institutions. So the president has said it. And if you look at the trend and conversations on social media, people are not even sure if indeed it will happen. But we need some evidence to show that indeed this has been done.
Tell me about yourself. Do you have suspicions that the president has said you will forfeit 3 months of your salaries and it will not happen?
No, I think I'm taking President Mahama for his word. I am happy for the public commitment that he said. And this is important for us. We just need to make sure, you see, it's not just about just believing. We know that consistently the trust in our institutions keep declining. And so it's also for his office, for the states to ensure that this is what's happened and actions that we have taken. It's important for good governance. Transparency is important in the process in all the things that we do. So we don't just say it, there are sanctions. And we are happy. In fact, we are happy with the sanctions that is happening. And he gave them up to 7 also. And so we will be happy that there will be a follow-up, and not just from the presidency, but even from the Auditor General as well, to give us an update, maybe a continuous update, not just also with the political appointees. The political appointees, President Mahama is taking responsibility. But it goes beyond just the appointees. There are a number of them that are listed that are also expected to declare their assets. There are a number of them who have exited government that are also expected to declare their assets, in fact, in the previous administration. And that is something that we need to also follow up with and not just end it here. So it's a very broad conversation that we really need to look into. We commend President Mahama, but we also, transparency is really important in the things that we do. So we'll be happy to hear from him the actions taken, some evidence of it. It's not just about me. I think it's for the larger Ghanaian public to appreciate that this is happening. And for the officers themselves, President Mahama's appointees themselves, to see that, yes, President Mahama is indeed up for action. And so they don't also disrespect him. I think it was also disrespectful to the
we have heard comments from the anti-corruption, coalition or members like you that the sanction was not enough, that he should have caused them to lose their office immediately for not listening to or complying with his orders.
Yes, so we could have done better, but in fact, we would take this punishment, for, like I said, Media Fourth Estate did something 2023, we didn't see any action. And so for us, this is okay, we'll take this, and that is why we want to see some evidence of action being taken, that indeed this was being done. And that is why we keep pushing that the Kobo bill needs to be passed, so that we are very aware of the structures. But again, it's not just the bill. You see, officers must know that morally, ethics is important. And if you want to do this job, if you want to serve the state, your conscience must be right. You have been given a responsibility. The president has given you a timeline, and then you disrespect the president, you disrespect the public, you disrespect the constitution. I think we need to set some examples here as leaders. I was trying to go through the list to see if the young appointees are also victim of that, because we are happy of some of the appointees, some young people in there. So it's unfortunate that it has to get to this level. But again, Samson, it tells us that for us to have good governance, it will not just happen. We have to police it, we have to monitor, we have to track it. And so that's what Fourth Estate is doing. And a response, I think this is the first time we have really seen some political will and support in this, to ensure that compliance and also sanctions, because we have not been able to enforce it. We've also not seen any sanction. Nothing is being done to officers, and so they go scot-free. We want to see some evidence, and we must commend President Mahama. But again, Auditor General needs to also look at this action from the president to give us updates, maybe some regular updates, and not just wait for Fourth Estate to do this, to tell us how many of the officers or appointees who left government have come back to also declare their asset at the end of their term, and also all the other officers in the public service that the Act list there, that if your income is equivalent to director, is it director general, director, you have to also declare. I think there's a tall list of officers that needs to also declare. So the government appointees, very important action from the presidency.
Okay.
But we need some updates also from Auditor General on this.
And I have said that 3 months salary is actually 4 months salary. That is forfeited to the Ghana Medical Trust. And then there will be automatic dismissal if the assets are not declared subsequently, as the president has sought to ask for. I want to quickly do a quick one with this so that we have time. Otherwise, we'll not be able to deal with the matters that we have to do with. Professor Kwete, this particular issue, some within your friends, within the anti-corruption CSOs, have said he should have just sacked them for their failure to meet his 31st March deadline.
First of all, I think we should commend the position he took and enforcing that, because for the 32 years we've been in the Fourth Republic, we hear about Assets Declaration, nothing happens. In fact, on one occasion when we were talking to civil society groups, had met former President Akufo-Addo, and talking about this corruption and anti-corruption measures. And somewhere along the line, it came up that he's trying to enforce this, but people are also attributing their non-compliance to cultural things. People were afraid that if they declare their assets in an extended family and inheritance, where it is nephews and nieces who inherit and so on, they could lose their lives. I mean, that kind of thing.
But so now the declaration is not public.
Yes, it was.
So what's the fear?
But at that time, that's what the reasons they were given. And there were no mechanisms in place. So there was impunity. I think what President Mahama has done that needs to be commended is that the impunity time is over. Okay, you have to declare, there is time. He set the example. It was the first time we're seeing a president, signing and giving his forms away, which then triggered that everybody's obliged to comply. That compliance, the moral suasion, is important, but it turns out it's not enough. And so he's found other means of, I think you go gradually. If it's a draconian measure, it also calls for a lot of investment in compliance, arresting people, doing this and so on. So it's the first stage, I think. I think the compliance would follow, because this is the first time that you're losing money and you're going to be fired and probably prosecuted. All these things have now been laid out, educating people on this, but also getting the public involved.
But the legal question has come up.
Yes.
The Constitution says you declare before assuming office.
Yes.
And every 4 years.
Yes.
These people did not default as far as the enabling law is concerned, because the enabling law gives you a grace period of 6 months. So why should the president be sanctioning them when they have not breached the enabling law, which says you have within 6 months to declare?
But if in 32 years this hasn't been, nothing happened to anybody, and he's now finding ways of getting people to act within the 6 months, and he says, I'm going to fire, I'll fire you in any case.
Fire me even when it's not the 6 month, which the law's parameter is 6 months.
Yes, but why would you wait till 6 months? I think that's why I said he's found a different way.
But how can you sanction me outside of the law? That's the question.
I think sanctioning people outside of the law probably would be a matter after the 6 months. He has.
But he's done it. They are losing 4 months' salary when it's not 6 months.
And then he's also said he'll sack them if you do not comply with that. I think we should look at things.
You sack them if you do not comply by end April, right?
Yes.
That's what the last thing he gave them, right?
Yes.
And by that time too.
You see, the moral suasion thing is also important. How many, assuming you sacked all of them, half of it, it's going to take you time to bring in new ministers, isn't it? And you have to go through all the processes again, the vetting and so on and so forth. But I think it's subtle. The way he started is gaining some results. But we would be happy to see him follow it further by saying those who haven't complied, you are out, and maybe there's prosecution. Something of the sort.
There were just a handful. There were not that many. So,
but at this stage, at least for the first time, we've seen declarations made within a certain time. So let's say that the 6 months now becomes the standard. If by 6 months our brother here hasn't declared, he's fired. And it could affect you for a long time in public.
The brother you pointed to is not in public service.
No, I'm using the 6 months to be there.
My family people are watching.
When he was there.
My family people are watching.
He was there, so I suppose that you should have done it.
I did. I did it twice.
I think you either do it drastically draconian, or you also use the moral suasion to educate and put the mechanisms there. You will still be punished.
When people went to Shraj,
yes.
Take, for example, Jean Mensah.
Yes.
She had not declared at the time that the complaint was made to Shraj. Shraj is the enforcer of this law.
Yes.
When somebody breaches it, you go to Shraj.
So and what is this track record of?
Shraj said, whilst the complaint was pending, and they had forwarded a copy to Jean Mensah, she had taken steps to declare, and therefore they didn't punish her. They didn't do anything. Okay, I think a justice also was said to have submitted late.
Yes.
Late submission.
Yes.
And they said, well, what's the point? They have already met it, so we can't continue and go ahead and punish them. So even if lawfully constituted authority didn't issue sanctions, when the declaration was made after the deadline of 6 months, which people have an issue with because that is in contravention of the Constitution. Yeah. How much more the president seeking to sanction them when they have not gone beyond the deadline?
Well, I think they haven't gone beyond the deadline, but he wants them to do what should be done. And that's why I say sometimes moral suasion could be used to... This is a problem we've lived with 32 years or more. And there was no sanction whatsoever. But now he says, I will sack you. You've made the oath. He's provided, set the example. He did it openly, and he's gotten them to do that. The next stage we should go, let's say how many of them would comply with this by the deadline he's given, okay, and the sanctions that they suffer. Could this become then the culture we haven't had in 32 years? It's somehow, we've been able to tackle that and put the mechanisms in place. I think the ultimate sanction that he's giving you some time really to put in your declaration. If you don't, he said you'll be sacked. And I think at that point then, if a prosecution or something of the sort also follows.
No, you cannot prosecute at that time because the person has not breached the law.
But he's giving, isn't it the declaration that we want?
Why is the president's word law now? That's the question.
No, I don't think it's law. I think
because people are suffering sanctions.
Well, that is true, but I think he's finding a way of. It's a cultural thing. I don't know which president in the past tackled it. They just left it quietly.
Okay.
And we didn't even see. But I think that after this, if he fails to enforce the rule, compliance with the measures he's taking, then that becomes a different thing altogether. But I think going draconian for 32 years, no action, he's put the mechanisms in place, and he's talking to them and saying, this is the last lap. But there's punishment in that. Mm-hmm. There is punishment. You're going to forfeit your job, you'll be prosecuted or whatever, and so on. And so he's created a process that makes escaping or dodging. So this was supposed to be brief. Yes, Victor, you are the lawyer and you are within the government, so to speak.
Yeah.
Have you declared?
How did this come about?
I've not
some 38 heads of state-owned institutions had defaulted. 4 regional ministers, 5 sector deputy ministers, and then there were 8 presidential staffers who had defaulted. But even this list, provided by the Fourth Estate, there were others who said that they had actually done it. So the Fourth Estate did not get the figures exactly correct. So now he gave them up to the end of April. If they didn't do it, then you lose your job.
And we're in May now.
Yeah.
Samson, let me commend the president. I think for so many years we hadn't seen this, that people were compelled to do it. Even the law gives them 6 months.
They may have done it quietly. A president may have told the people to do it quietly. He doesn't have to.
But he wanted to carry along the public to see that I mean what I say. I want to walk the talk. And it is my government. The law has given him that duty to appoint people he wants to work with. And he say, any of my political appointees, this is what I want you to do. Even before the law kicks in, this is what I want to do. He who eats my bread, that's my will. So he's been given that duty and he appoints. And he says that if you don't do it, I will disappoint you. I will disappoint you.
I'll
fire you and say that, look, then the vision that I have, you're not buying into the vision that I have. So that is what he's communicated, and he wants to make the public be aware that if you don't do it, this is what I would do.
He gave them 3 months.
3 months.
Period.
Now,
end of March.
Now, can you go?
The 3 months period belongs to a PNDC law that has been repealed, which gave you 3 months grace period. Yeah. Yes. That's been repealed.
That's been repealed.
So the new ones are 6 months.
I don't think that it is the law that he's following. He is saying that this is what I want all my appointees to comply. So that once my appointees have complied and I move on to another person, it will not be seen that I have not removed the spoke from my eyes and I'm now moving on to some other person, right? So that's what the president has done. Now, can you go? If the president has fired you and you say, oh, if the law says within 6 months, I should do it. I've not done it. So I want to go back that I've done it within the 6 months. That would be a gray area of the law that we will witness expanding the frontiers of the law. But the president has said, if you want to serve in my government, as a signal, the first signal, and being humane, you are losing some portion of your remuneration. And that remuneration is not even coming to me or going to the state. It's going to cater for the Mahama case, the chronic diseases, some poor people who can't pay for their disease. That is what that money is going to cater for. So I think that he should be commended for what has been done. Now, the only issue, as the law says...
Before the only issue, some have said that the constitutional provision says that you should do it before you assume office. So if he wants to show us good example, he should rather ask them to stick to the constitutional provision.
No. The problem, you see, Samson, the problem with the asset declaration, have you seen the document before? The document. I had some people who came to me to help them. And once you look at the document and how you have to do it, it's a little bit technical. I think that we need education. Because people just come into office, they don't even understand. Because for me, as a lawyer, when I saw the document the first time, I told the person, look, let's wait. Let me study it and look at it so that we see how we'll be able to complete the form. So I see some genuine difficulties, challenges with the form itself, the way it is designed. The
officers at the Auditor General, they are there. They can show you what to do. Why do you...
But it's not everybody...
But something, you see, for me, something you haven't done for a period of time. Do you want to put all of them in jail? Because they never did. Are you going to put all of them in jail? That's why I think that institutions or enforcement must be enforced.
Yes.
But the first stage of getting people to get used to doing this, and all the story about if my family gets to know what I have, all those cultural reasons they used to escape complying with this. He's closed those doors. I think we must now look at the next door, which is that you would go to court and so on and so forth. But for now, is it getting results? Is he getting, has his ministers complied or other public services? If it's improving the compliance, I think we're just testing it, but it doesn't take out the ultimate that will be prosecuted.
Yeah. So, I think where society, people want
let's clarify this. Let's clarify this. Non-compliance does not lead to prosecution. Non-compliance goes to SHRAJ, and SHRAJ will determine what sanctions you face.
Yes.
The sanctions have not been provided for. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so that's a good legal education. Now, I think what society is trying to look for is the transparency. Now, they want to see that whilst the asset has been declared, they want publication, they want verification. But as we speak now, that's not part of the law. The law only says that declare the assets before and after, right? But that's where the step that I think that they are pushing. Society wants to see that.
And so that's what the president should be doing. If he wants to show us that he wants to do more.
I think
because even PNDC law was compelling publication, and they were publication at the Gazette, National Gazette. So you go there, you see that the PNDC officers, appointees, they were declaring their assets, and it's at the government publisher. You can go and see if Kojoga Daudu has been appointed. You see their asset they have declared, but we come into a democracy, and here we are. We can't even tell.
And the democracy, the reasons were being, some were cultural. Some were like, look, the history we had, when people got to know the wealth of people, that was when they were being accused and said, these are the rich men, these are the poor men, and the cause of poverty and the rest were the rich. So the rich became target. Right? So it was because of our past histories that some of these things that were taken out of the law.
Where did we learn that from? In South Africa, when they declare, publish, what happens? In Liberia, when they publish, are they changed?
No. So now that is what we are. No. So now that we are looking for that provision to be inserted into the new, I'm sure this government will take the steps. Because those bills are already in and it's being discussed. Some are being discussed at cabinet.
Okay.
And some bills that are being discussed at cabinet, I think when we come to the 12010, I'll let you know those bills that are being discussed.
Okay. So
it is a good thing. We think that integrity, credibility, and honesty is being brought back into politics.
All right.
That look, is an open book. Once you decide to serve publicly, you should know that there will be a day and time for accountability. And it's an open book. Your life becomes an open book.
Right.
Anybody can read it.
Thank you. Dennis, what do you say?
So, I mean, my view on asset declaration has always been that we should stop wasting our time discussing it and telling people to go and declare it in its current form. It should just be scrapped, or we should rather spend the time advocating for the reform. Because it's a complete waste of time. I mean, what the president has done is nothing new. Like Doc said, I mean, I have declared my asset twice. And in Nana Akufo-Addo's government, he did it. He had a whip. I said that maybe he didn't put cameras on what he was doing. I recall correctly. I coordinated the receipts for all MMDCs across the country.
Okay.
And that was the rule. So he sort of segregated, so they were coordinators. And it was Koesuman who was the anchor at the presidency. And he made sure that you have to do it. So I, for instance, had to engage each of the 261 MMDCs and not just ask whether they've done it, but collect the receipt. When you do it, the Auditor General gives you a certain receipt. Scan copy of the receipt, then I forward to Koesuman. You can ask Koesuman. So that was done. Maybe the only difference here is that there are cameras on it, and for the purposes of people seeing that it's being done. But Nana Akufo-Addo actually insisted on seeing your receipts, and it was discussed at cabinet. It was a cabinet decision. It was passed down to all appointees, and the chief of staff used to call me to ask me, the other 10 people left, when are they bringing their 10? But I mean, I agree with counsel. The current form is outmoded, is of no use. It's a complete waste of time. I mean, the first time I picked the form, I kept it on my desk for 3 weeks. Because you see, there are several challenges in there.
Within time. Did you do it within time?
Oh, yes, I did it within time.
We could have reported
but I did it in about 3 weeks. And even that, I can tell you, it's either you are under declaring or you over declaring. Because you see, in Ghana, quantifying the asset itself is a chore. And when you pick the form, the way and manner the form is, Samson, trust me, you will need a lot of thinking to be able to group your assets properly.
So it should be simplified
and organized on the form. It's a big form. It's not in this format. You have to fold it like 2-3 times before you can open. So when you take it, it's folded this way, before you can.
And they've reduced the size.
And the content in there, some of them I even think do not necessarily apply to our context. The kind of information that are being required and all of that. So I think it should be simplified. Secondly, I don't know why something that you ask me to do, I do it, I put it in an envelope, I take it to somebody who doesn't open it, drops it into a never opened box until some legal matter comes up. And you are putting a gun to my head. Like, it's a waste of my time.
That's the verification and publication.
Honestly speaking, because as I sit here, I've declared my asset twice. So what? Yeah. What I put in there, you don't know.
So we have the Code of Conduct for Public Officers, which has suffered for decades. And as part of the IMF conditions, your government brought the new one to be passed. Why is it not passed?
Yeah, so for me, that's why I'm saying that I want us to use the period to advocate for speed in passing that. Because honestly speaking, if it is all about completing a certain form and dropping it in a box, really, I don't think it's really serving the country any purpose at all.
But within your time, as whips, you didn't exact any punishment if people did not meet the timelines you gave them?
Oh, I mean, they were within our spaces. They were. So
what would you suffer if you didn't meet?
I mean, you see, the point is that it's like having a household, and giving rules to your children. The advocacy by Mr. President then was that it is mandatory, everybody should do it. As a matter of fact, from what I know, and at least the part I coordinated, they all complied because of the way he decentralized it. Because the chief of staff will call me and say, the MMDCs, can I get their report? Okay. You send it in Excel, and then you attach the photocopies of the receipt. I don't think really that is the issue. I think that the real issue is, what do we intend to achieve with asset declaration? Because at this point, if I declare it in January 2025, and I dispose of one of the assets I have declared in September 2025, how do I update it? who is receiving that update.
Interesting.
Along the line,
we take a break
acquire
here.
Another asset,
we take a break here. I'm very sorry. We take a break here. We'll return for our very final part of this discussion. We'll be right back. Okay. Thank you very much. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. And interesting discussions. Thank you all for your messages that you've been sending in. Okay, you took money. We caught you. Now you are saying you used some of the money to support opposition parties. Why are we even entertaining this? Sell all his properties and recover the money. He can go and collect his money from the so-called opposition parties later. When you collect our money, we collect our money from him. This is from Samuel Ano. Samuel, we don't do it like that too. It's a country of laws. This one says evidence, so not allegations and speculations. Carlos Vela says that the lies are not attractive. His lawyer misled him. How exactly do you mean his lawyer misled him? Masaudu Jr. says this is a clear blackmailing strategy, probably by his lawyer. I personally don't see anything national security about his memo. This even is irrelevant to what he's being charged with. Gideon Sakite says that it is absolutely hogwash. He claims the NPP was funding the NDC and other opposition. Has he mentioned NDC in that thing? Those projecting NDC, he has not said, he says opposition parties. He didn't say NDC. And other opposition parties to come remove them. Does that make sense? Of course, doesn't appear to make sense. But if there's a program that allows it, why not? Cool Jam says it doesn't matter how he disbursed the cash. The issue is how he made it. Emmanuel Mensah says he is telling lies. Just imagine this. How can you fund an opposition leader to win power and later prosecute you? Right. Interesting comments there. Thank you very much. And we need to be clear about this. And thank you, Media Foundation for West Africa, the Fourth Estate, for bringing this to my attention. It actually was in my mind. I missed to say it, that in Akufo-Addo's regime, in the first and second term, we had 27 ministers who had not declared their assets at all. So they were also found wanting in that regard. Now, let's quickly see how you manage it, about 3 minutes each, gentleman and lady, about the 120-day contract. Of course, if you want to say something about the code of conduct also, you can do so. Once again, let's begin from Zoom. Vera.
Yes, Samson. Quick one on the asset declaration, and I agree with Mr. Abuaji that we need some reforms. And so for CDD, one of the things we have submitted to the Constitutional Review Committee is to look at how we are able to really use that opportunity or the platform to have some reforms in the ongoing process to review the Constitution. So it's important. And verification is also important, like he mentioned. You don't just say it, but there's also the opportunity for Auditor General to verify the information that you have submitted. And so we think that it's important that we need some reforms in the asset declaration. The 120 days,
but Vera, it's an important point, so just get a brief on it. If you say you want the Auditor General to verify, you bring the paper, they look into it and say, okay, you have written here, I have 5 houses, they are here and they are there. Okay, we have seen you really written something, and they put it down. You say you have $1 million in a bank account, or you owe somebody or some institution $1 million, and that's it. Or they will go to your individual homes, go check your bank accounts for all the appointees who are supposed to declare.
So so that's why we have submitted some conversation. We have started this with the Constitutional Review. Verification is important, and you see there are also some levels. We have the government appointees, and some we have to look at how do we do this. So the conversation, how do we do it? We cannot also just say that because we said you have 1 billion in your account, we say, oh, okay, he already has a 1 billion in his account. Oh, he has 4 houses, he has 5 houses, so that is it. Or we just go and look at it. How can we verify? How do we do this? Can we have some evidence to show? Can we have some picture? Do we have some accounts to show. I think that verification is important. We have to do it well. We need to do it. It's important. If we are looking at making sure that this is done properly and we have reforms, we should not just say because
that would be a Herculean task, right?
And democracy is that's how good governance is. It's not just
okay. 120 days, please.
If we have to do it, we do it well. I think we can look at the structures and see how it's done. And if we have to even let the officers themselves, like you're saying, even have to submit it online and show evidence directly. Some of them you don't have to physically go there. If there are ways that officers can verify using their online submission and all of that, this is something we can explore. And I think the ideas are also coming up about how we can do it. And there are also best practices, Samson. Yeah. We are not the first country to look at this. So we look at also best practices in other countries.
120 days.
For 120 days, I think so far so good. I think that President Mohammed's comeback, there were lots of high expectations from young people, from all, about what he does. And also for me, it's quite commendable for President Mohammed to say, I have a social contract with you, 120 days. These are the things I want to do. These are my commitment. Ordinary, we would have just said, 100 days. What did he do? What didn't he do? Then we'll be all over looking at all the other things happening. But he had a way to manage our own expectations elsewhere and assessment that this is what I can do. This is what I'm committed to do. So assess me based on this. And it's 120 days. We've seen I can see your screen on the charts, 52%. It means that, is that an average? If we are scoring it in a classroom, it means that at least he's done something. There's also some in progress. Some of them, I think I've heard some mention about it was just like a committee, a forum, national dialogue. I think it's something that we do not have to take for granted. And for us as CDD, we appreciate it because, you see, you have government coming into power and rushing to do things. And national consultation, public consultation, meeting all stakeholders is important for public support. You need support from all various institutions to progress with all your initiatives that you want to do. You need different interest groups to come together to say, okay, this is what is happening. How do we, in the economy, what is happening? How do we go about it? Because going through the campaign, you have had all these nice ideas. I'll do this, I'll do that. But until you take office and the reality hits you, you realize that these are different things and I need to have a conversation. And so for us, it's also commendable. It might look like it was just a national forum. He said you organized and has been checked down. But we have to also recognize how significant these public consultation processes are. And so that's why I thought that we missed another opportunity of having something I'm calling for, a national dialogue on youth employment. Samson, we've seen a number of interventions, even from President Mahama on the things he said he would do, the National Apprenticeship Program, the Jumara, and all of that. We've seen a number of youth intervention, youth employment intervention, youth start, Jumara, Jumapat, a lot of them. Previous governments have started something like that. We have different agencies doing something on youth employment. But we need to really pause and evaluate all these actions, all these interventions. Is it really working? What has been the outcome? What has been the beneficiaries' profile so far? What is happening with them? Because we keep dedicating a lot of resources, money, time for this initiative, for youth employment. In fact, youth employment is very important. Unemployment rate is very high in the country. And so there's that. I think that that's something we need to, it's not too late if the president can also look at among all the national conversations he's done, we need to, and also commending him for some, the appointments so far. We've seen a number of young people, young and
thank you.
Unfortunately, Samson, last one is that my disappointment is with low participation of women. Unfortunately, President Mahama couldn't meet the 30%, and I think that's unacceptable. And as we go along,
is that part of the social contract for 120 days? That's a question.
It's not a part of social contract, but it's something we can't overlook.
All right, thank you. Right. So yes, Dennis, we've had people, with loads of integrity, like Professor Stephen Adair, say that we must be very careful over praising John Mahama in 120 days, because in the first term of Akufo-Addo, I think that he performed very well, and then everybody's hopes were dashed. And I think that Akufo-Addo's government in the second term did so badly. But he made a comment. He said that if you want to be candid, John Mahama has done very well in 120 days.
I mean, I want to be candid, and I don't think he has done that much in 120 days. Samson, you don't set your own questions, set your own criteria, prepare your own marking scheme, and not make it. That, for me, is the worry. Nobody put a gun to the NDC government to set these 25 social contracts. There's no law that says they should do it. I have seen your mark of 52. How do you set your own questions and do 52 with your own marking scheme? That is a worry. And then I also see that yourself, Imani, and a few others in your assessment, you have a segment you called ongoing. You see, there cannot be anything called ongoing in the 120-day social contract. It is either fulfilled or not fulfilled. At best, you can have partially fulfilled. That means that you have done something about it. But how did you guys introduce that ongoing thing? It is not fair to the people. You said that in 120 days, you will do A, B, C, D, specific, you logged it. Now, in 120 days, you couldn't do it. And you are helping them with ongoing. What is ongoing? You are being
factual.
No.
That's 55% complete.
You couldn't do it.
28% in progress and 20%
you cannot have in progress.
Not started.
You cannot have in progress. You see, in their 120-day contract, they were quite specific. What they want to launch, they say launch. What they want to commence, they said commence. If they have commenced it, it is not in progress. They have actually done it.
They're abolishing taxes.
Calm
then
down.
It comes to COVID levy.
Calm down. So it's
they say
partially...
COVID levy is part of an IMF, condition. So there's a difficulty there. We need to do a number of things.
So it's not fulfilled. How do you call it in progress?
But it came with abolishing a number of taxes.
Sorry.
They have abolished.
So you call it partially fulfilled, not ongoing. Ongoing and in progress and partially fulfilled
I get where you're coming from.
are two different things.
I get where you're coming from.
It is in progress. It's different from partially fulfilled. So you see, partially, you have fulfilled some aspects of that promise.
All right.
But you didn't do all. Then you can give the person maybe 60 marks or 70 marks there. But if you take it out of that space and go and put it under another category called in progress, you are trying to sneak something new in there for him. They have fulfilled 11 of their 25 promises. They have partially fulfilled 2. And they have not fulfilled 12.
That's by your counting.
Yes.
Okay.
But it's not strange because you have 52%. Imani has 50%. The government itself has 72%. So we are all doing our own.
And the 52 is for 13 promises fulfilled.
Yes. So we may disagree on 2 or 3 other things you claim they fulfilled.
Yeah.
Or others you've pushed to.
And we say partially fulfilled is 7. Which we say is in progress. You say the best way is to say
you don't call it in progress.
I think I agree with your term.
It's partially fulfilled. But the general summation is that you brought your own questions, brought your own marking scheme, and you failed. Now, this country in the last 120 days, in everybody's candid view, will tell you that this government has saddled us with 120 days of lamentations, complaints, excuses from day one till now. Samson, we have had 120 days of doomsday, 120 days of terminating close to 35,000 young people's employment. Within the 120 days, cement prices has gone up by 45 cities in this country. Within the 120 days, you have removed 1% e-levy, which is by choice, not all of us have to pay, and imposed 14% electricity tariff hike, which all of us have to pay. Within the last one...
Which tariff hike was to have come in?
No, it's not true. It's not true. That's another falsehood. In the IMF,
I'm sorry, but
the IMF.
Sorry, we don't have time.
No,
I've got just 2 minutes to share to them.
Yes. Give me 2 seconds.
2 minutes to share to them.
In the IMF, no, but let me correct this one.
No.
The point you are making is
Miracle.
In the IMF,
stop talking. No. Do the miracle.
Thank you.
In the IMF conditionality, there is nowhere in the IMF.
I'm sorry, but you can have a minute to say something about the 120-day contract.
I think the 120-day contract is fine. It should be enforced. But ultimately, institutions should be built to tackle this issue. If we know that there's the certainty of state institutions, decentralized, this is the business they do, they develop methodology, they have technology, they have people, you can't dodge, not meeting your obligations. That is what we have to build. This approach is only acceptable because the president has taken that decision and shown that it can be done. But let us now institutionalize. Let us train. to the extent that you didn't do much anyway.
No, but he couldn't do it. We didn't set questions for ourselves.
No, okay. Samson,
Yes.
my turn. I think that this 120 days contract, social contract, the president has walked the talk. And look, I'm happy to say, for him to say that what is left is partially fulfilled.
No, two.
No, partially fulfilled. Because they assessed us on 13, and it's 25 pledges we made. 18 has been fulfilled.
No, 11.
The 18 has been fulfilled. The significant thing we can even see, 120 days, is that how much is the CD to dollar now?
But if CD to dollar...
No, wait. That was not even in it. CD to dollar from 17 CDs.
No.
Now,
14.7, factual, please.
14.
No, 14.
January,
yes.
From January.
Yes.
Now we have
factual.
12.7.
Even January 7 was 13.
Oh, wait. No, why? Miracle, you had the point.
No,
now we have fulfilled. We have the link. It's just to tell you that politics is not about dishonesty. The honesty, the integrity that the president has brought. He's nominated his people, the appointees, the leanest and most efficient
and most expensive. Leanest and most expensive.
No. How expensive?
It is the most expensive.
We've done the economic dialogue. See, it's the national economic dialogue. The things that we propose
with the big
refused. That is what has brought us where we are now. Now we have done education. We are seeing the committee. We will see the reforms soon. Just like we've seen from the national economic dialogue, we have seen that look, the women bank, money has been given for women bank to take off. Now we have seen the 1 million coders, and as we speak now, we have about 200,000 applications.
With 500,
now,
with 500 they are training, 500.
They are training.
Okay.
We have the BCE taxes. The BCE, the betting tax, the e-levy.
You don't seem to get the thing Miracle has done.
No.
And he has done it successfully.
We have done this. The nuisance tax that we've spoken about.
My outfit, gentlemen, hold it. Gentlemen, hold it. Thank you. Gentlemen, thank you. Hold it. My outfit is by Kunati Clothing. Kunati Clothing, you can call them 0244-676732. 0244-676732. Kunati Clothing. My guests have been Dr. Emmanuel Akwete, Executive Director, Institute for Democratic Governance, IDEC. Bright Simmons was on earlier. Honorary Vice President, Imani Africa. Vera Bernardo, Programs Officer, CDD Ghana. Dennis Miracle Sabuaje is aide to Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, and Victor Kojoga Adaudu is a member of the NDC Legal and Communications team. I'm Samson Lardy. Anyenini, have a good afternoon.